Okay, everyone, welcome to our monthly fireside chat with VC. This month we have Shan Aggarwal with Greycroft Partners. He will be describing what he does a little later. Please give him a round of applause and welcome. My name is Louis Wharton. I'm a partner with Stubbs Alderson and Mark Lees. We are a corporate transactional and business litigation law firm representing clients literally from formation all the way through exit and beyond. We have expertise in corporate transactions, finance, securities, business litigation, intellectual property, and several other areas of the corporate practice. One of the things that I'd like to describe about our firm that I think differentiates us is our business-centered approach to the practice of law. So we have legal expertise, and then you can ask any of our clients, they'll tell you that we have that. But we also focus on providing business advice based on our experience with clients that we've generated for the last probably more than 20 years. We also run the Precelerator here in our Santa Monica office. The Precelerator is essentially an accelerator. We don't provide capital, but we provide all of the other benefits that you would typically get from an accelerator in Los Angeles. And this is one of the ways that we are being innovative in the practice of law, as well as giving back to the entrepreneurial community here in Southern California. With that, I'd like to introduce Mike Lilly, our co-sponsor, and then we'll introduce several of the others.
Thanks. Hey everyone, I'm Mike from Early Growth Financial Services. We are one of the nation's leading outsourced accounting and finance organizations. We currently work with 18% of the venture-backed companies in the United States, helping them through a variety of startup challenges. So we help with corporate taxes and personal taxes for some of the founders we work with. We also do 409A valuations if you're going to issue stock options to your employees. And then our core business is really day-to-day accounting and CFO support. Our key differentiator is that we're very much plugged into the fundraising community. And so we can actively, lean on those relationships and try to help our clients just grow just beyond our actual service. And so that's really who Early Growth is. And let's turn it over to Leslie from CMO.
Hi everyone, I'm Leslie. I'm representing CMO today. CMO LA, we're an outsourced marketing firm. Unfortunately, my colleague Peter, he's over at Money 2020 handling the biggest fintech conference of the year. We basically help startups build out their entire marketing strategy as well as being the feet on the ground whenever there's an event. We also help our clients get funded. We have a new partner on board. He is a former VC and he helps our clients really figure out their financial models, pitch deck, everything that makes things look good to the investors, and we make it look pretty and we send them on their way. So any help with marketing? We're here. Thank you.
We got Brendan Harper from TriNet.
And Anna Evans as well. Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Harper, and I work for TriNet. And TriNet is the greatest HR company, not only in Silicon Beach, but also in the country. So what we do is when you are building your business and growing your team and doing all the things you need to do to make a lasting company, TriNet handles all of the things that you need to do to manage the relationship between you and your employees. So our platform has a payroll engine. It gives you benefits that make you look like a company that's bigger than Disney, even though you might only have a handful of people. We give you help with compliance, and we give you a live, you'll know them by name and face, PHR, SPHR certified rep to help with any of your HR questions. I need to beg your pardon a bit because I have actually a personal story to add to TriNet. I just walked in, I'm a little late. So some of you know, but right now, the woman that I love is being prepared for surgery. And forgive me if I get emotional, I wasn't expecting this. She'll be fine, it's a back surgery, but she has health care. But because her employer doesn't give her health care, she is on a plan that costs her a lot of money out of her own pocket. And it's for a level of coverage and a network of doctors that is serviceable but not elite. So she's had a very painful back problem now for a while, and one of the questions that we asked ourselves is, how has her life been different that she didn't have that? Now, not to give a very intense personal example of something that TriNet touches, but it's part of the value that we bring, that the human beings that are in your life and your company are cared for. So thank you for coming. Thank you for letting me share. And a little awkward backhand off to Mike here.
Thanks for having me.
Naveed is not here. here, but anyone from Silicon Valley Bank? No, Silicon Valley Bank is our other sponsor. And I also wanted to point out Scott Alderton in the back of the room, managing partner of Stubbs Alderton. So if you've got questions after the event, feel free to contact either me or Scott.
Hey, Louis, can I take 2 seconds
Yeah,
to just
please.
make a plug for Brendan? A lot of you guys are really early stage companies. You don't need to wait. He said a handful of employees. Don't wait till you have a handful of employees. Brendan is a great mentor and really accessible to the community. If you're a startup, if you're just planning your product, if you think you're going in a direction, talk to Brendan, grab Brendan for breakfast or lunch. He's a good mentor and a good advisor. And when the time's right, you'll already have a relationship with TriNet, which is a fantastic resource for young companies.
Absolutely. Brendan's also a mentor at our pre-accelerator, so we believe in him. Okay, so I think 2 things. First, Shan, let's do a brief introduction of yourself and Graycroft, and then what we typically do is we typically go around the room and we give the entrepreneurs 30 seconds to briefly describe their company so you have a sense of who's in the room, and then we'll get into our Q&A.
Cool. Yeah, so thank you guys all for coming. Shan Aggarwal, as Louis mentioned, I'm an early stage investor at Graycroft Partners. I've been there for about 1.5 years. Prior to Graycroft, I was working in strategy consulting at Bain, also here in LA. I can give a brief overview on the firm, but Graycroft is a Series A, early Series B focused early stage venture capital fund. We have offices in New York and LA. We like to say that we're sector agnostic, so we invest pretty much in every industry. I would say the 2 exceptions are clean tech and biotech traditionally, just given sort of the level of technical and deep expertise that are needed to sort of make educated plays in those spaces. And we look to partner with the best entrepreneurs in building the most innovative mobile and internet companies.
Great. All right, why don't we start here? 30 seconds, please keep it brief, and then we'll go through, take around the room.
Hi, my name is Sasha Dahimi. This is my partner Chris Turnbull and a colleague Nick Curley. We're starting a talent sharing, service-oriented social media platform. We're pretty early stage right now. We're working with ISBX, who's a developer around here. We just got out of our wireframe stage, so we're heading into design, finished up a seed round, so great. Now we're just essentially taking off.
Thank you.
I'm Jordy Bassoon. I'm with Staffing Force. We have an online platform that helps companies and people come together in staffing services, and everyone make money from the platform. So we really fall into the sharing economy type of company.
Hi, I'm Michelle Solomon, and I'm here with my business partner Jessica from Adorn. I'm sure a lot of you probably hate going to the mall. By the time you park your car, find an item that you're looking for, talk to some sales associate that doesn't help you find that item, usually go home empty-handed, and that's why we created Adorn. Adorn's competitive advantage is that we focus on you, the user, or consumer in this case, not the brand, the stylist, or the blogger. We have a really enthusiastic team behind it that has experience in development, retail, fashion, and tech. And next time you're at the mall, just download Adorn. It's coming out next month, and we're super excited about it. Thank you.
Hey guys, Patrick Ryan. So we found that buying anything in 2016 is pretty awesome, like Uber, Postmates, Amazon, but buying a home still sucks. And so we're using virtual reality as a platform to allow you to tour a dozen homes in an hour and then drive to just the few that you actually want to see.
Hello everybody, my name is Ellie Shapiro. I have a local crowdfunding company. It's called Fund Dreamer. We cater to women in diversity groups as well as older people to help you raise funds and fulfill your dreams. All of you probably at some point thought about how to raise money. Well, we're one of them, and we're not Kickstarter or Indiegogo or GoFundMe. We take your money, we give it all to you. We accept 139 currencies from all over the world. You get to keep all the money. There is no administrative fees for you. You don't lose any money if you fail to raise your goal. You can extend your goal, you can shorten your goal. We have evergreen campaigns for nonprofits where they can continuously raise money without closing it. And we're local, and I can meet with you, and I can bring you your check.
Hey, I'm Corey Azzolino, CEO and co-founder of Rally. This is my partner Duncan. We were a former pre-accelerator company here with Stubbs. We are a marketing technology firm that uses IoT devices to bridge the real world with digital products. Our first product is a smart charging cable, and our launch partners are Uber, Lyft, Super Shuttle, amongst others.
Hi, my name's Ross Josh. I'm the CEO of Dealer Pinch. We're an anonymous new car buying platform. So instead of going dealer to dealer and haggling, you can go on and say, okay, I'm looking for a Mercedes or a Toyota, pick white, silver, or black. We have an exclusive partnership with TransUnion, so we get a full copy of your credit. That goes out anonymously to 4 dealers. First one to accept, congratulations, go pick up your car. We also spun out, and so we have a VR company as well attached to that, doing virtual reality test drives. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Juan Song, CMO of My Gym Pals. We help you find workout partners through a mobile app, website. We work at a lot of gyms, about 400 right now. We also got a new partnership with NutriShop, one of the largest nutrition shop companies in the world. And we're here to just raise seed. Hopefully you'll be able to join us at the FitExpo next month.
John Arroyo from Arroyo Labs. Run a boutique software development shop, so we do a lot of anything from MVPs for bootstrap startups up to strategic scaling and specialty help for Series A and beyond. We also help large brands with their e-commerce, whether it's fulfillment issues or some sort of a cloud architecture. Just here to meet more of the community and see how we can help.
Hi, my name is Amy Royland. I'm the CEO and founder of a new fashion social networking app. I was on a Shark Tank, so you might remember that. Since Shark Tank a week ago, I completely pivoted. I'm now more B2B. So my app allows you to directly tag your products to your images and drive sales through all social: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. We make it all social. So we work with brands, designers, and retailers, and we help them help other people drive sales for them as well. Social commerce.
Hey, my name is Wes Hansen. I'm with ShadowBid. We're an advanced price alert system that automatically purchases the product you bid on when the price drops to your bid amount. Right now we're focused on Amazon, and we'll expand to retailers. We're going to launch in about 2 weeks.
My name is Tom Callahan. We have a company called Song Trader, and I think we met with you last year. Yes. And we solve a lot of the issues pertaining to music licensing. We work with both sides, the buyers and the sellers of music, almost like an Amazon of music. We've done 4 seed rounds, about $1 million each, and over the last couple of years, we've got about 16 people now based here in Santa Monica, and opening up offices in the Philippines and Scandinavia and a few other places, and we're doing well, but we're ready for that next round, the bigger round. So, thank you guys.
You go this way? My name is Steve Cochin. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Confreight.com. We're a freight marketplace for full truckload shipments. North America, we have some contacts for expansion into other countries. We just came from a spiffy pitch, so that's why we're dressed up a little bit. This is my co-founder, Sal. He's also the CFO. And we're focused on basically automating the financial aspect of the payment processing for high expense, high price freight shipments. That's the core of our platform. Just here to meet new people.
My name is Christy Cardenas. I'm with Distillery. We're a full-service software development shop based here in Santa Monica. We've got a global span. We're one of the top 3 firms locally, and we love our startups. We love our entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. We're specific in mobile application development. So at any phase during the process or helping you through the entire process of Jeanette's is something that we do very, very well.
Hi, my name is Jason. I'm the CEO of PlaySpace. We're a new pre-accelerator company. We're in very early stage about product / proof of concept mode. We had one that we did with Stan Lee, which we're really excited about. Right now, the whole thing behind our company is we're taking comic books and we're bringing them to virtual reality, which we think could be amazingly cool and super exciting. So, really excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Emily Webb. I'm co-founder and CEO of My Luca, an on-demand private parking app that capitalizes on underutilized resources, residential and commercial spaces, so you can rent out your driveway, Bank of America's, churches, UPS stores, you name it, anything but public parking. We have 350 private spaces in Los Angeles. We just partnered with RazorGator and we're in talks with LA Metro. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Stephen Harden, co-founder of Apply Studios. We create open and on-demand social discovery app. With a touch of a button, we'll let you know what's open around you. whether that be restaurants, bars, festivals, concerts, based off the location and time.
I'm Chris Ellis, and I'm co-founder of Teleboard. And if you're like me, you get frustrated with meeting friends, groups of friends out, picking a place to meet. So we built Teleboard, which is a discovery decision-making platform that lets you jointly decide where to go in real time on a shared map.
Hi, Craig Allen. I'm a strategy advisor to the Emblematic Group, and they're basically working with a journalistic approach to VR and immersive media, working with brands and social cause issues, and basically working with people that have a story to tell in a way that people can experience it, not just watch it, but live it. It's an amazing group. They've been bootstrapped, and we're just now starting to kind of raise formal rounds of funding. So early stages, and excited to be moving forward with the community and starting to get involved with you guys. And my associate Steve Booth is also with our team.
My name is Marty Chaskin. I'm the founder and CEO of Lockaware. We're a pre-accelerator company. We are building a safe and trusted network of locksmiths and security professionals and technology to help them connect with the consumers who need them, up to 250,000 American consumers who need them every day. Today, if you go on Yelp or Angie's or Google, your chance of finding a real locksmith is about 5 to 9%. There are huge lead generation companies that are set up overseas that send out people who are not locksmiths, who destroy locks and sell you new locks. This is a huge problem. So obviously, we're building technology, we're building our network of security professionals. We are already at revenue doing B2B, working with property managers, but we're pivoting into a new product that we call home hardening. And we're going to be revealing to the American consumer that alarm systems, that IP cameras no longer prevent or delay crime at all in 2016, and the only thing that can do that is physical security, doors, locks, windows, etc. Thank you.
Okay, I think have we missed anyone? Anyone in the back? Anyone in the back there? All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Eclectic group. So, Shan, Grey Cross philosophy is essentially that VCs are involved in repeat business, right? That you should be aligned with founders, and that you should be flexible in your approach to venture capital investing. So can you give us a few concrete examples of how that philosophy works in a few of the investments that you're working with here in Los Angeles?
Totally, yeah. So I would say it goes back to sort of the investment thesis and what's ingrained in how we essentially structure all our deals or approach deals. So I'd say there's 3 key points. So one, typically, so first of all, we syndicate every deal. So in terms of every investment that we make, we always look to partner with 1 or 2 other institutional investors. And the reason for that is really just to ensure that every company and every entrepreneur that we end up backing has access to the broadest network that's essentially going to enable them to reach that next milestone. The second is internally. We don't have a target ownership percentage, and therefore we don't have a minimum check size. So a lot of larger funds, what they'll say is we have to invest X amount to get to a certain ownership, and that's built into sort of how larger funds think about their returns. And so we don't have that internal hurdle, and so we're able to participate and sort of co-lead or co-invest alongside pretty much any other investor. And then the last point is we never require a board seat. You know, regardless of whether or not we're on a formal board and have formal voting rights, we support all of our companies just as equally. And so we typically take board observership rights, but we're pretty flexible in that regard as well.
So 2 follow-up questions on that. So the first is, if you typically the ownership stake and investment percentage is based on, or it's a proxy for valuation, right? So essentially, it's difficult to maybe figure out exactly where valuation should be, especially for very early stage companies. So a lot of investors use an ownership percentage, right, as a proxy for the valuation conversation. Since you guys don't do that, right? Since you're not, you don't have to take a particular percentage. How do you approach the valuation issue for very early stage companies, right? You're doing a Series C investment, for example, in an unestablished industry, right? You're going to invest in a price round. How do you guys go about thinking about where the valuation should be, given that you're not necessarily anchored to a particular ownership percentage?
So I think it varies significantly based on a few things. So one, the category, whether or not it's e-commerce, B2B, if it's a subscription-based business. But we think about it essentially on a comps perspective, and so at this point, we look at maybe 3,000 to 4,000 companies a year, and so over the course of 10 years, which is the history of Greycroft now. We have a little bit of pattern recognition, I'd like to think, and so we use both historical and then what's current in the market to establish that. But to answer your point more directly, we like to price the company based on the fundamentals of the business. So whether or not if it's a B2B company that's largely going to be the customer roster, what percentage of the revenue is recurring or subscription based. If it's more of a consumer company, consumer-focused company, the growth in sort of active users as well as engagement that people are showing with the platform.
Okay, and then one more follow-up before I get to you, Mike. And then you don't take a board seat, you usually take observer rights. So how do you get these companies to do what you need them to do? I mean, if you're not sitting on the board, saying, hey, give me those reports and get me those financials, et cetera. I mean, obviously you guys have been around for a decade, right? It's your 10-year anniversary this year. Somehow you managed to do it. So talk a little about that experience.
It's a delicate balance, but I would say it all goes back to, in the diligence process, it's really, you're getting a gauge on a partnership that's going to last for 7 to 10 years, right? And so I think that's a huge part of the process, is really, can I work with you for 10 years? Can you work with me for 10 years, right? And so, if there's any flags or any signals, we'll walk away from a deal, even if it's a company that we love and a space that we love and we think it could drive great financial returns. It's just, it doesn't really make sense because, to your point, it's just, there will be problems and there's going to be ups and downs over the course of 10 years, and we recognize that, right?
One of the things I was just hearing from the audience is that a lot of people are kind of at the pre-seed or they just closed their seed round, and you guys come on more at the A, Series B level.
Yeah. Can
you talk about kind of the huge leap that you have to make from a seed to a Series A company and what that looks like and some of the key things that you look for?
Yeah, totally. I think that's an important point. So I think the hurdle or the amount of progress that you need to make between your seed and Series A round is probably the most significant in the life cycle of many companies. And I think you could probably reference it to, people talk a lot about something called product market fit, and there's many ways that people define product market fit, but at the highest level essentially is, are there people, is there a market for the product that you are building and that you are producing, right? So the first measure of that is, are people using the product, which is great. Obviously high engagement, high degree of interest in using the product and engaging with the product is great. Then the next level is, okay, well, are people willing to pay for the product? And that's a huge, if you think about it from a personal perspective as a consumer, that's a huge leap. It doesn't seem like it necessarily could be, especially if, for a lot of consumer-based companies where it's, maybe a $2.99 subscription or something like that, right? But it is hugely.
Interesting. In terms of just like what you're seeing in the general market right now, like, how do you feel about things going forward? Like, what are you excited about? Stuff like that.
I feel pretty good. Overall, this year there has been a slowdown in terms of the overall number of fundings, but at the same time, we're still seeing great companies, and the great companies and the strongest entrepreneurs are still raising capital. And I can tell you, we're still extremely busy heading into the holidays here. So from that perspective, I feel good about the next year, and I think things are shaping up nicely. We'll see. The election is obviously a big sort of inflection point and can carry weight one way or the other, and that has impact on everyone from the capital markets all the way down to us in the private markets.
So what are you guys planning on based on a Clinton administration and or based on a Trump administration? You've got to, both are possible.
Yeah, we haven't really decided one way or another in a change in strategy. We've pretty much held true to our strategy for the last 10 years, and it'll likely stay the same. But we'll see what impact that has on sort of the startup community.
Okay, maybe we should get some fundamentals out of the way as well, because I feel like we haven't talked about check size and stuff like that. So, what check size do you guys typically write? I know you have 2 funds, maybe talk about those 2 funds and then kind of what the parameters are of those.
So we're actively investing out of 2 funds. So Greycroft 4, which is our 4th core, what we call early stage fund. We do Series A and early Series B, and what we define as that is when we invest, we typically, our average check size can range anywhere from as little as, I would say, $500,000 all the way up to $6 or $7 million, but the average is probably 3 to 4 on an initial check. Like I was mentioning, we look to partner with the companies. We don't really think about it as an investment. We think about it as a partnership, really. And so we typically follow on with companies companies through the life cycle. And that was very much the impetus for why we raised what we call our growth fund, which is more sort of a venture growth fund, and it's about 50% focused on supporting our existing portfolio companies as they move on to those later stages, those late Series B or Series C, maybe Series D and beyond. And then 50% for new and exciting companies that, maybe at the time that we looked at it at the early stage, it just wasn't a great fit, or there were certain questions that were still outstanding, and, with 10, 12, 15 months more data, those concerns were raised, right? And it gives us an opportunity to still back and support those companies and those entrepreneurs.
I know you mentioned the fact that you're industry agnostic,
Yeah.
but the fund tends to focus on internet and mobile companies, if I'm not mistaken, right? So obviously we're seeing certain trends in particularly mobile with respect to AI and AR and VR. Pokemon Go, was a flash. Maybe it's still going. I haven't caught any recently.
The last I heard is the numbers are declining.
Exactly. So my question on that is, given that it seems like that was simply a flash in the pan, right? An example of how you can use AR to engage users on mobile. Do you see that as the kind of trend moving forward? Are we going to see more examples of these kind of hits in mobile, taking advantage of and more broadly disseminating AR technology? Or do you anticipate that AR is going to roll out in a very different way? I mean, where do you see AR going in terms of mobile?
I think even more broadly, when we talk about Internet 1.0, it was very much, this is the digital world. We sit down at our laptop or our computer and we engage with this thing called the Internet. I don't really know, but I'm typing things in and it's sending me back information, right? As we think about the progression of that, it doesn't need to be, and it already isn't. You're starting to see these blend over with the smartphone and the smartwatch, right? Is digital representations, I think, will permeate all aspects of our lives. So, very much artificial intelligence will be in digital out-of-home displays, for example. So, there's interesting companies that are working on facial recognition and emotion analysis, where when you're at the 3rd Street Promenade Mall and you walk up to the directory, it will be able to recognize, hey, my name's Shan, I'm a young male, I might be interested in going to Nike, and it'll navigate me directly to Nike. How does it know that? I don't know, but I think that's one example of just our interaction with digital just being in the physical world. I thought the Pokemon Go obviously it was a fascinating flash, and I do think that that's going to be the first sort of in a series of kind of interactions with our augmented reality and how we interact with the world. Yeah. It was exciting to hear a lot of you guys are working on virtual reality as well, because I think it's obviously a very quickly growing space and getting a lot of attention right now, and LA is, at least from my perspective, very much becoming a hotbed of activity for virtual reality, all the way from content, as we're seeing a lot of the creative and production talent moving from Hollywood and very much showing interest and engagement with virtual reality, so that's very exciting.
Just to piggyback off that too, besides the whole AR, VR movement in LA, what else are you excited about in LA?
Yeah, so I always tell people, I think LA is such a vibrant community, it's so diverse, right? And I think from an investment perspective, the areas that LA has become known for they traditionally were largely consumer based, right? Because Hollywood it's the center of the media and entertainment, right? So you have everything from video platforms like Maker Studios, full screen, the traditional YouTube multi-channel networks, to advertising platforms that are built on top of that. The other area I think in LA that's really exciting is e-commerce and kind of the future of retail, right? A lot of manufacturing is still done in commerce in downtown, which our office is in downtown, so it's very close by, and we're pretty active investors in e-commerce all the way from retail, traditional retail, to interesting new models of e-commerce, I think as you're mentioning, that leverage social media as their primary distribution platform. So those are probably the two areas, and then alongside virtual reality, I would say. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. How do you, so for the audience, what's your process like? So let's say that you've gotten that warm introduction and you guys are somewhat interested, but you need to do more diligence. Describe that process. And go from interest to actually getting funding.
Sure, yeah. So I'd say, first of all, this is very much just a general...
Don't hold yourself.
Well, Sean said it. this is very much the general. It varies in every case, but in general, I would say it's about a 4-week process in total. So first week, initial meeting, is really just to get an introduction to the company, get a feel for kind of the entrepreneur background, sort of understanding why you were moved or driven to really go down this path. Like I mentioned, it's a long cycle, right? And we're in it for the long haul. So are you going to maintain that drive and that fire throughout the course and the history of the business? After that, it's probably a week where, if we're not fully familiar with the space, where we do our own sort of diligence and get up to speed on kind of the market, competitive landscape, who the other players are in the market, in the field, and then assuming there's still interest, there likely be at least one follow-up meeting, and then we'll get into a little bit more. We'll dig into a little bit more of the details of the business in terms of the business plan, go-to-market strategy. Typically, at the companies that we invest, they're generating revenues. So understanding kind of where that revenue is coming from, what the plan for getting more revenue is going forward. After that, we typically have, every Monday, we have an investment committee meeting with our team in LA and New York. And so every company that we invest in pitches to our full team across New York and LA, which at this point is about 19 investment professionals. Once that process is done, we typically would issue a term sheet, and then it goes into sort of more of the legal process of negotiating terms and then eventually signing a term sheet.
Just going off of that too, so when let's say you do get invited back to pitch in front of those 19 investors, what are some things to like really hit home on to kind of maybe move the needle in favor of the entrepreneur?
Right, so I think, first of all, again, I would reiterate is the why, right? Like, why are you embarking on this journey, really? What the market opportunity is, right? There needs to be a huge hole in the market, or at least as you see it. And then, honestly, what the competitive advantage that you have and why you built the right team and the right product to take advantage of that market opportunity.
Gotcha. You guys have a pretty large network. It's one of the benefits that you provide to your entrepreneurs. But what about folks who maybe get to the very last stage and don't quite make it? Do you ever leverage your network to assist those folks? You like a company, but it just doesn't either meet your financial metrics or the timing isn't right, some other reason. Do you ever leverage your network to provide introductions and other opportunities for entrepreneurs in whom Graycroft doesn't invest to kind of move their process forward?
100%. I would say, to my point earlier, is part of the reason that we raised the growth fund, and we view it as very much the long haul, is we're not going to invest in all of the best companies at the Series A. We are going to miss some companies that are going to be fantastic companies, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be another opportunity to work together down the road, right? And so yes, the simple answer I would say is for sure. What I do always recommend is, if you think about how large the network is, we have a portfolio of over 150 companies at this point. It's much easier when you have sort of a targeted set of, these are the 3 companies in your portfolio or in your broader network in the community that I think would be interesting, and then it enables us to sort of be a little bit more helpful in that.
What are your thoughts in terms of planning for fundraising, like your advice to the entrepreneurs here? We give a lot of financial planning advice, but in terms of like how long it actually takes usually to close a Series A, how much you should budget for a contingency, things like that. What's your advice on that?
I would say budget 2x the amount of time, and budget, when you're thinking about how much you want to raise, probably take that amount, obviously be very thoughtful in that amount, and probably add about 50% to it. And you're generally hopefully in the right ballpark. But
hopefully gets it done.
I would say, so first of all, start the conversation early, kind of build those relationships. It's great to meet all of you here, but hopefully we have more time to chat one-on-one. Start the conversation early, but also I would say is be targeted. Not every fund is going to be a great fit for your company. Not every fund invests in virtual reality. Not every fund invests in e-commerce or is particularly interested in those areas. And I think that's fine. They invest in other things, and so it's just be really targeted about why you're interested in talking to a particular fund, or why that one you feel like could be, going back to my other point, a good partner for the business, right? Because you are really, you're signing up a partner, you're giving up a meaningful stake in the company, and signing someone up for a number of years.
Well, we're somewhat a little past the halfway point. So I'll make the opportunity maybe for folks to ask some questions. If you guys have questions, go ahead. If not, we'll continue. Any questions in the audience right now?
Don't be shy.
All right, more questions for me.
Actually, I did have one question. So you mentioned that you have this smaller tranche, or I guess range of, you're considering this a Class A, low end 500,000, high end, what was the high end of that?
6 to 7 million.
6 to 7 million. Okay, so I'm just curious, what are the factors where what kind of companies, I guess, are you guys currently funding? What do you have a specific set of spaces that you're really applying those sets of funds to right now?
Are you asking sort of
Yeah,
what areas?
verticals, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like spread of the portfolio for that.
Right, so what I was referring to there is our average check size. So that's
Gotcha.
typically, as I mentioned earlier, we syndicate a deal, so we typically partner with 1 or 2 other institutional investors.
Sure.
So that would be our investment as a part of a larger round
Okay.
into the company.
Gotcha.
Areas that we're investing in, so like I mentioned, we're sector agnostic, but the areas that we probably have the deepest expertise and spend the most time in are, so digital media. The firm was founded in New York and LA as the 2 media and entertainment capitals of the world. So we still look at and do a lot of companies in both the video, publishing, and
Primarily
gaming
B2C
spaces.
then, right?
Sorry?
Primarily B2C then would be?
From that perspective,
Gotcha.
yeah. And then, I mean, obviously enterprise software is a huge focus for us. More on the application side, I would say, so things like marketing technologies, sales technologies, rather than deep infrastructure,
Right.
but, open to that as well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you look at organic growth versus paid online growth?
In terms of
And how do you value it as an investment? Like when you look at a company and see how they grew,
Yeah.
how do you value organic versus the paid online?
Well, yeah, obviously organic
Right.
is so much more valuable,
Sure.
right? The thing with paid is, especially if you test with paid acquisition strategies early, it's really difficult to tell how that's going to trend going forward, because eventually what you see is the vast majority of advertising at this point is driven through Google or Facebook, and you sort of hit a wall at a certain point, especially on Facebook, where your CPA just skyrockets, right? It can only be effective up to a certain point. And so I always encourage, especially if you're a B2C company, if you can drive any of that earned media early that drives natural and viral organic growth, that's fantastic. We have sort of internal benchmarks from looking at other companies that we've invested in at this point. If it's a consumer social app, for example. So, yeah.
Hi, I guess my question's 2-part. You obviously invest in a lot of digital media from your portfolio. What excites you guys most about media? Because so much is changing.
Yeah.
Like, what are you looking for in media companies?
I mean, I think that probably, the fact that it is changing probably
Yeah.
excites us the most. It's interesting, you're seeing a lot of change in both the linear side of video, and then emerging platforms like Snapchat, which are essentially becoming, even they describe themselves as a camera company. I should say snapping, I guess. And it largely is a media company, and so I think one thing we're particularly seeing is sort of the boundaries are being blended between the traditional, this is the studio, this is the distribution network model, where now media companies can be a lot more vertically integrated, right? Where they might have relationships with the talent, or they might be the talent in the case of YouTube or a multi-channel network, right? So that's probably the area that I'm most excited about. And then, I don't like to bucket VR into media, but it is largely media, and it's definitely an area that we're extremely interested in. Yeah.
All right, Bob.
So when you guys look at traction, you obviously prefer to see revenues like increasing every month and so forth. That's not always possible in certain types of plays. So how do you think about what other metrics are important for a particular business? Particularly I'm in a marketplace kind of business, but I'm just thinking in general.
Yeah. So for a marketplace business, it can be very different, right? In terms of the number of users, frequency, the retention combination. I would say retention is probably one of the most important, right? So how often are people coming back to the platform? How ingrained is it in people's everyday lives, right? Are they interfacing with it once every week, once every month? So the typical things like the weekly average, one I would say is daily active users to monthly active users. A lot of people don't really tend to look at that. That's really interesting because it gives a note into not only how many people are on the platform, but how often they're interacting with it. So, yeah.
Well, why do you guys think? I've got one for you.
Sure.
So Graycroft is one of the few Los Angeles-based VCs that can actually write a check not only at the beginning of investment, but through the company's life cycle. Right? You guys can move with the company from growth to a significant exit. There aren't that many in Los Angeles, so I'd love to get your thoughts on whether and how that structural, I guess you call it imbalance is going to change in Los Angeles. Do you anticipate that based on the growing ecosystem that we have here, based on additional entrepreneurs having successful exits, based on investors in a variety of communities being interested in Los Angeles, that we will start to generate interest from VC funds that can write checks for Series C rounds, Series D rounds, et cetera. You don't have to go out to Silicon Valley or elsewhere to raise those funds.
Yeah. So I think two things. So first, I think we're already seeing it. So there's a number of new funds here in LA. Fika Ventures, which is more of a seed stage fund. Fifth Wall, which is a more real estate, retail, transportation focused fund. Alpha Edison, new fund that's also focused on later stage. March Capital Partners just raised a new fund. So I think we're seeing a lot more capital being based here in LA. So that to answer your question. And then I think the second point is, as we're seeing a lot of big exits and big companies being built in LA, like Snapchat, like Honest Company, those are just great for the ecosystem in general because they're going to spin off pools of talent. If you think about, if you go up to the Bay Area, if you think 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the ex-Google kind of network, the ex-Facebook network, it's real, and those people go on to start interesting and great companies and also attract new capital or they start funds in their own.
Yeah, sure. So to piggyback off Louis' question about the sort of geographical landscape as it exists in LA, to really go big, what are the kinds of things that you would change or like to see to accelerate that? I mean, even up to the mayoral or gubernatorial level of okay, we are going to give free tuition to everyone in Caltech because we just want the best people to come here, or we are going to change transit, whatever it is, but something big to really make LA a destination and speed up the rate at which we are competing with our bigger brother to the north.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the first thing I would hope is, to what I was just talking about, is a lot of those larger companies, them investing really in the community to retain that talent. So Southern California graduates the most engineers of any region every year. UCLA, USC, Caltech, the Harvey Mudd College. I mean, there's so much great talent up here, and it's such a shame when we see it all move up to Silicon Valley. I'm actually originally from the Bay Area, but I've been here in LA for a long time. I love the region, and so I would just love to see those companies, and I think you're starting to see it with, like Michael Dubin from Dollar Shave, investing a lot of his time giving back to the community, investing in the entrepreneurial and the startup ecosystem is huge. And then I think to Lou's point earlier is just having, as investors, we want every company that starts and is being based in LA, we want to have the first opportunity to support those companies, and we want those companies to sort of come to us first so that we can give back to the community. And so I would hope that my fellow investors also maintain that sort of same focus.
So everyone here, Shan wants you to go to him first. Take it back. I said it, not Shan. Another question for you, which is, you guys syndicate your deals a lot. So do you source deals typically from other investors, or where do you source deals from?
Yeah, so I would say it's a combination. So one, direct, right? So just being out there, the LA Tech Summit, conferences, things like that. The second is from our existing portfolio. That's a great reference. If one of our portfolio CEOs pings me and says, "Hey, Sean, I'd like you to meet XYZ. I think what they're doing is really interesting." That's an awesome reference. And then the last is trading with other investors. So we've probably done deals with the vast majority, I would say probably all of the big funds, but keep in touch with a select few more often than others. So, okay.
What does your involvement in the portco look like on a month-by-month basis?
It's hard to say on a month-by-month basis, I would say. So we get monthly financials typically for most of the companies that we invest in. Every 6 weeks we review our entire portfolio actually in terms of how the performance is going. Each company that we invest in has kind of a point of contact at Graycroft that I would say is more involved, whether that be sitting on the board or just on the observer rights. And then we have a number of events and sort of activities that we put on for our portfolio to support them and help them grow. So I guess to that point, the areas that I would say would probably help the most or the biggest value add, where we spike is really, first is business development and the second is hiring. So from a business development day, we have a number of what we call sort of innovation days where we'll have a handful of our companies come in and we'll have executives from a Fortune 500 company like Square or Salesforce, Microsoft, Disney, Time Warner. We do these fairly frequently and we'll set up essentially quick, intimate events where our portfolio companies get to meet the corporate development team in a lot of these large corporations. And so we find that's extremely helpful for our company. I think every single one of our companies has probably had at least one customer or partner come from those. We also have a CEO summit every year in New York where we invite all of our portfolio company CEOs and a lot of the heads of corporate development, other CEOs of Fortune 500 companies as sort of a hotbed for innovation and kind of to breed a lot more of that innovation. So from the business development perspective. And then second on hiring, I would say. So it's hard to find good people, but the benefit of having a large network is it's natural that people move around, right? And so we know a lot of the times when people are moving around and it happens to fit conveniently when somebody's looking for that technical co-founder or head of growth.
So how do you get more out of your investors? Like, you got into so much things, but like as an entrepreneur, like what are the best things I can ask for, and how do I do that I can maybe get like a disproportionate amount of attention from them?
That's a great question.
I think the people who do it best, in my experience, is just being very targeted, really. Because there's a lot of times I'll get approached with very nebulous asks. Like I would like to talk to somebody at Riot Games, and I'm like, that's a huge company, right? I mean, and then if you say, okay, well, if I'm gonna go, I have contacts at Riot Games, right? But am I gonna email him and say, hey, I don't know who I want to talk to, but I have this company that wants to talk to someone, right? Or is it, hey, I want to talk to the director of esports who's focused on marketing at Riot Games? It's like, oh, okay, cool, that's an easy ask, right? And so I can just go directly there. And then the second thing I would say is just make it extremely easy. So, to the point where you can provide the context and the blurb that I can send, that's awesome. Because a lot of the times I don't have the full color or the full context. And then I guess to your earlier question, the people who do keep their investors engaged the best, I would say, because we do want to know, send out monthly emails. It's honestly, as much as communication is moving towards more real-time messaging, email is still the standard of communication, and if you're very clear and keeping it concise, that's honestly the best way.
What about outside of connections? I think that's an obvious scenario you guys had, but like maybe my last question of like, what are the metrics I need to be nailing for like to raise a big Series A? Like, do you guys get involved at that level or like?
Yeah, I mean we do, right? And so if it's a Series A company and it's going for their Series B, and they're kind of planning for, hey, we need to raise in 6 months, right? How do we position the company? We'll help them. I'll help companies develop their pitch decks for their downstream funding rounds sometimes, right? So it's really thinking about, well, how do we tell this story, what we did achieve, and what we want to achieve going forward? We do get involved at that level. I would say, again, to that point is if you're targeted and say it's not just what metrics do we need to hit, it's, based on other marketplace companies that you have seen who have raised a Series B, how many monthly active users do they have on their platform? What's the average transaction value? How frequently do they interact, right? that's a lot easier to answer, right? And honestly, probably more helpful for you.
How does your company receive cold email pitches?
How? In terms of how do you take them?
Do you actually read them?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, so myself and my colleagues in New York, we have, you can email contact@greatcroft.com, and I would say the responsiveness is probably slower than if you get a warm intro, obviously, but you read all of them, yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, maybe one more question if we've got one. If not, I think we'll wrap up. Anybody? Last chance. Okay, well, thank you all. Sean, thank you very much.